You're listening to the first 2020 episode of Vote Her In, a collaboration between Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive, where we look at the movement to elect our first woman president. On today's episode, you'll hear from Michigan Senior Senator Debbie Stabenow. Hi everyone, this is Kelly Pollock, and you're listening to Vote Her In, which is a collaboration of Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive, where we look at the movement to elect our first woman president and lots of issues surrounding that. We are today recording on Impeachment Day. This is Wednesday, December 18th, when the House is going to vote on impeaching the president. When you hear this, it'll be a little bit later. I'm going to turn this over now to Rebecca, who will introduce our guest. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi, Kelly, and just delighted to be here. We are joined today by one of my favorite people in the world, not just the political world, but our senior senator from the state of Michigan, a key state, Debbie Stabenow. And as Kelly mentioned, we're on Impeachment Day, and frankly, as to the matter of Vote Her In, I think there are just many connections. I imagine the senator will make note of them. I took the time, although I've known the senator for, I think, 3 decades and counting, of writing out a bit of an introduction, because for those of you who may not know enough about her, she is a spectacular person with a singular record of experience as a political woman. So here we go. She was first elected in 2000, the first and only woman ever elected to the Senate from Michigan. And along with Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington at that time, the first woman to defeat an incumbent elected senator in a general election. And I underscore that because of its importance to what women need to do as we work to be elected officials. She's got a just remarkable political and civic public service story, having been a woman who began this at the age of 24 when she was elected to her county board of commissioners. I took the opportunity to write about Senator Stabenow in my first book, Every Day is Election Day, because I thought this story of starting and just working hard all the way through was so illustrative of what so many women are willing to commit to. She's in her 4th term in the Senate, matched in experience by just a handful of other women in American history. And I think just the perfect person to kick off this centennial year of women's suffrage and our, I hope, Vote Her In year. So we're just going to jump right in with the senator, and thank you again for joining us today. It's just really special for us. And we thought we would begin by asking the senator, of course, to share her thoughts on women and Impeachment Day, and also what she's learned and wants to share with us about how we gain political office, sort of the messages, the tactics, the strategies that enable you to, to rise to this level of executive power. So welcome, Senator Stabenow.
Well, Rebecca, it's always great to be with you. I'm so proud of you and your book and all of your efforts, and now the podcast and working with Kelly. When we talk about joining together and your Two Broads, when I ran in 1924 as a young woman in grad school to take on an incumbent after leading an effort to save a local nursing home, which he was trying to close, he referred to me as that young broad running against him.
Right.
And the good news was the young broad beat him. So So here we are, and this is, you raised a lot of different things, questions and things we could talk hours about. And so I will just briefly say, first of all, on Impeachment Day, and I know folks are going to be hearing this right after the first of the year, this is historic. This is a critical moment in our history. It really is true what the speaker said. None of us ran and worked hard to get here to focus on trying to stop a president abusing his power or trying to, go through an impeachment and removal process. I'm here to talk about healthcare and strengthening mental health and addiction services and protecting the Great Lakes and the economy and manufacturing and agriculture and all the things that affect Michigan climate crisis, which is top of my list. So that we didn't come here to impeach a president. On the other hand, we have a responsibility, legally, ethically, morally, given all of the behavior of this president, to draw a line in the sand and indicate that no one is above the law. You are not allowed to use the awesome honor and privilege and power you've been given by the people of our country for your own political gain, to undermine, and essentially blackmail a young new leader of a country trying to battle Russia and, take money, military support that we have voted on for that country and use it for your own political benefit, period. So we're now moving into a trial that, I believe that the evidence presented in the House was clear, but I also believe in fairness and transparency, as does our Democratic caucus, which is why we're the ones saying, if the president has evidence, if he, the people that were in the room from his team, if they want to come forward and give his side, give something to rebut what he's so far chosen not to rebut, we want to hear both sides. That's certainly what a trial is about. So we will proceed on that. What I will also say, though, I'm proud of the fact that we have a woman speaker who has led the House to this point. The fact that when you look at the folks leaning in, two new great women from Michigan elected, Alyssa Slotkin, Haley Stevens, who were part of the group that really stepped up to move this forward in the Senate. It was myself and Senator Murray in leadership from our leadership team that were the first to say the House should have an impeachment inquiry. And at the same time, we understand why we're really here, which is to get things done to make people's lives better and solve problems. And the House is doing both. The House is doing both. And so far, under Mitch McConnell, the Senate is doing neither. So we're moving forward. And Rebecca, you were asking me about sort of, as a woman over the years, how do we get here? What do we do? The good news I will say is that as we speak, actually, coming into the new year, for the first time, there are 26 women out of 100, which when I came into the Senate in 2000, we had 13 women in 2001, 13 women, which for the first time in the history of our country meant that we could have one woman on every committee of the Senate. Oh. So think about that. A woman's values, experience, voice, priorities were finally in 2001 represented on every committee. And so now we've doubled that to 26. I'm hopeful that, my bias is that Democrats should take back the U.S. Senate, and the top races right now are women, where we can do that, which we would, we could potentially go from 26 to 30 or 31. And so, which is awesome. And so how do we get there? First of all, you got to believe in yourself. Don't wait for somebody to ask you. Yes, you need to have some knowledge and experience, but certainly as the current occupant of the White House has shown, you don't actually need either. So what you need is, a passion, a vision for what you want to do and why. You need to work hard. You need to be willing to take a risk and put yourself out there.
Right. And on that point, and then I want to turn to Kelly, I wondered, because it's so special in Michigan, if you would talk about these women who put themselves out there and won statewide office in the last election. It's just something I, for one, never dreamed of.
This is so exciting. And it was on two fronts. First of all, the obvious. In addition to my winning re-election in 2018, which I'm very grateful for the support, we elected a woman governor, a woman secretary of state, a woman attorney general, and our governor selected as her lieutenant governor the first African-American male to be, or African-American period, to be lieutenant governor. And so we had women elected across the board. Again, not by accident. And I would say two things. One, we organized at a level we haven't organized, at least in my lifetime in Michigan, and we're actually continuing that into the 2020 election. We worked very hard. Our women running were smart and effective, and each ran their own great race. The other thing, though, and I wrote a column in the New York Times after the election, the other thing that I think was very, very significant that we underestimate is that in Michigan, the headline was not all women ticket get elected. It was each person who won on her own merits as her own candidate and so on. And so instead of the story, all the fall being, look at all these women running, it's a pink wave, it was Gretchen Whitmer is running for governor. Debbie Stabenow is running for re-election. Dana Nessel is running for Attorney General. Jocelyn Benson is running for Secretary of State. Each race was viewed separately. And that is a very significant change because in the past it's always been lumped in together. Can we have 2 women senators from the state of California or the state of Minnesota or whatever? It's like, well, we can't elect 2, And so when we first started running, the rap against the governor was, well, Debbie Stabenow is running for re-election. You can't have a woman gubernatorial candidate, have 2 women at the top of the ticket,
God forbid.
And so, and then we've had 100% men for years, white males for years. And so I said, I really fought that hard. And in the end, once we got past our own, actually, Democrat saying that and got into the race, people forgot to say, and oh, by the way, Gretchen Whitmer is a woman because she was the former Democratic leader of the state Senate. She was incredibly competent and ran a great race, and on and on and on. So that is a moment in history that needs a little asterisk here because I think it's important.
Yeah. Maybe even a big asterisk.
Yeah. Maybe 2 asterisks. I'm not sure. Yeah, exactly.
So you're the senior senator in Michigan, and I think we hear these terms thrown around a lot, senior senator, junior senator, and I think a lot of us, including me, don't really know what the difference is or what that means. Could you tell us a little bit about, what does it mean to be the senior senator from your state, and what has that taught you about being an effective leader?
Well, it means, first of all, you've been around a while. So, and it's not necessarily age, but it is length of service. So, but for me, it's a different level of leadership responsibility, both for my delegation on a bipartisan basis, and also as the one of the top 2 lead Democrats really in the state. And so going into the presidential election, I've taken on a very significant role with our organizing efforts and so on to win in 2020. For our efforts with the delegation, we have a bipartisan delegation that meets regularly. And part of what I have done is try to refocus us in a more effective way to fight for the things that we all care about in Michigan. And so we've started, since I took over as senior senator in 2015, regular in-state congressional trips. People they're called CODELs, and normally it's overseas. You travel to another country, you meet with elected officials, leaders, and so on. I started something where we went to the Sioux Locks, which is a major infrastructure asset for Michigan, which allows ships to come through the St. Louis Seaway into the Great Lakes and directly affects commerce, agriculture, and so on, and jobs in the region and actually the country. And we need a new lot. Things hadn't been moving. We did a trip up north. It's a ways up there. Met with the Army Corps of Engineers, got everybody focused. We now have the project approved and are moving forward. We just took a trip last year, and just a few months ago, to actually Illinois, Rebecca, to 40 miles south of Chicago. There's a place called Brandon Road Lock and Dam where we are trying to hold back these big fish called Asian carp from getting into the Great Lakes and destroying the lakes. And so we brought our delegation over. We met with Illinois members. We met with the Army Corps and so on. We are now moving forward on that. We've done that in a number of ways on common areas of interest that are not partisan. And I'm trying to have our delegation be laser focused on using all of the assets of our leadership and our committees and so on, and to get things done for Michigan. So as senior senator, I am now in a position to actually craft that and lead that strategy.
So as a senior woman senator and senator period, but woman senator, you have a special role across the nation as well as in Michigan. And of course, this year in 2020, we have this powerful movement to elect a woman president. We've had strong women candidates running for the presidency on the Democratic side. And I wonder whether you might kind of comment on the significance of that, what you see going forward, how you think this will be such a sea change. If you have any recommendations for the candidates, feel free to share them. Obviously, I know they're your good colleagues.
Yes, I have many colleagues running. Yes, yeah, but I let me comment by first saying we actually did elect the first president who won the popular vote in our country, and thanks to Russia, coupled with the Trump campaign, she is not our sitting president. But I just want on record here that for the first time we saw a woman in the debates head-to-head as a major party candidate, and so that will always be in the history books. Now we have a number of women running, and we've had obviously folks drop out, people coming in. It's fluid, but I would say this: I think that we now have reached a little bit more of a milestone again, because the lead in every story is not, look at all the women running for president. It's Elizabeth Warren is running for president. Amy Klobuchar is running for president. Kamala Harris won for president, and on and on. And so that subtle change, I think, is very significant. And, at this point, I don't know who our nominee is going to be. I am going to vigorously support whoever that is. I personally believe our country will never be the same with another 4 years of the current president. I think we will lose. There's no question we'll lose our standing as a leader in the free world, and we will lose who we are in our heart and soul and legally and every other which way. And so I'm going to vigorously support whoever wins. And no more third party voting, no more people staying home.
Right.
That we can't do that. We can't. That's why President Trump won in Michigan. It was because more people vote, third party than the number of votes that Trump won by, and we had too many people stay home. So we can't do that anymore. And so at this point, I haven't selected a candidate. I want to be in a position to, we have great people, bright people. Some I don't agree with everything everybody says, but that's okay. They are ethical. They are hardworking. They are knowledgeable. They've read the Constitution. They care. They're honest. So I think, at this point, I'm going to lean in, as I hope everybody does, to make sure that we have a Democrat elected president.
Right. An embarrassment of riches, right?
It really is. I mean, truly, and so many of my colleagues they're they're all friends, and they're all great.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming up pretty quickly on the first caucuses and primaries. And, as you mentioned, in places like Michigan, we need to make sure that there's no third-party voting. There's nobody staying home. For most of our audience is women, and most of our audience is activists. What are your recommendations for them? What are things we need to be focused on in 2020 to make sure that everyone does get out and vote and doesn't stay home and doesn't vote third-party?
I think a number of different things. First of all, even right now, I can tell you in Michigan, we've been focusing this year on structural things of registering people. We have a new law that allows people to sign up to be on the permanent absentee ballot list without having to have an excuse to vote. We have been using that to encourage more people to sign up for permanent absentee ballots. So structural things are very, very important. And then I think we have to tell, first of all, the story constantly of why it is not acceptable to go forward at any level, whether it's abuse of power, corruption, what's happening in the courts, what's happening to healthcare, what's happening to environment. We're going backwards on the climate crisis, on and on and on. We have to make sure and make the case for our friends and for supporters. Even on the economy, they talk about the economy is better. Well, it's not in Michigan. It's certainly not for average people. This president promised with his close to a $2 trillion tax cut. He promised $4,000 in the paychecks of average workers. Not happened, not even close. Big buybacks, a lot more for CEOs. So the average people, it's folks that are trying to pay for childcare and hold their family together, and the cost of college and everything that you are doing every day to try to care for your family. It's not better. And even in Michigan, we've seen 2 months of actual loss in manufacturing jobs, which is technically a recession. And we don't want that. But, we have to tell the story, whatever it is that the activists feel they want to focus on: healthcare, climate crisis, economy, whatever it is. And then I would finally just say one more time, we have to, in our own minds, not be so wedded to an individual candidate that we can't support whoever the nominee is. That's the death knell for us. And I think for the country in terms of America and who we have been and want to be. And so this is, whoever wins, we can work with them in the democratic process to move forward, whoever wins on the Democratic side. But between the Russian efforts on sabotage on social media and the Trump efforts and so on, they're going to do everything humanly possible to divide us, as they did before. They're going to divide. We can't let that happen. We cannot let that happen for those of us who care about our country and our families.
We were talking about what we wanted to cover with you today and want to be respectful of your time, of course. And the last thing I had written down was, please share any inspirational or motivational message, which of course you've just done. But and thank you for that. But before we close, if there are any other particular words of wisdom, and then we will thank you profusely for doing this and look forward to working with you.
I would just add, I've been talking about the president, and I would be remiss if I did not also add, we have to have a Democratic majority in the Senate. If Mitch McConnell remains as leader, then we will still get no judges that are fair and responsible and have the right values. We will still get no legislation. We will still not fix healthcare. We will still not deal with the climate crisis. As we know, with everything he did to block President Obama, it is critical. So we have a great race in Kentucky with a wonderful woman, Amy McGrath. And we also have other great races around the country. We right now need to add 4 more seats in the Democratic column, which is very possible if you're in Maine or Iowa or North Carolina or Arizona or Colorado or Kentucky or Kansas, which has a newly elected Democratic governor. And we have a great woman running there. Please get involved. Go to the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee website, check things out, and get involved there as well, because we have an exciting opportunity to really move the ball forward with women senators and to take back the Senate with women. And wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes.
It would be stupendous. A real year of the woman.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, yes. Thank you so much, Senator. It's really such a treat.
Yes, thank you.
To be with you and to hear from you.
Always wonderful to talk to you. Always wonderful to talk to you. And let's just go, what, I don't want to be down. I don't want to, this is not about being down or fearful. This is about grabbing our power and going forward.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
So we will sign off, and for our listeners, listen to this once and then listen to it again.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
The Vote Her In segment is a collaboration of Two Broads Talking Politics and author Rebecca Sive. Our theme song is called Are You Listening off of the album Elephant-Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.